Hey, welcome to the Family First Life U.S.A. podcast. My name is Stephen Yee. Today I have three special guests with us. To my left, we have Robert Vasquez, Lohr, and Colton Duhr.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're gonna have fun today. We're gonna have an in-home clinic because you guys sell a lot of insurance, right? So, but before we get into that, I want to dive into Rob's story because Rob didn't start here at Family First Life. All three of us did, but he didn't. Rob, how long were you in the industry before you found Family First Life?
So I started in the industry when I was 18 years old. I started in, they got me straight out of high school. I was green. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated high school. I was going to be a cop. Because I was like, oh, 40K a year is not bad, right? But then, I found out that I was good at sales, right? And just kind of recruiting. I was in a recruiting company, so my first month I recruited like 35 people. And I started selling everyone at church. And, eventually I kind of realized what was going on.
You have no more leads.
I had no more leads. That's basically the answer. And on top of that, I had already sold everyone I knew, right? So I decided to change companies, but I couldn't change companies because they were threatening me with this 2-year contract that I couldn't sell to anyone I knew. I couldn't basically. So I stepped out, I got into regular sales, and then last year I decided to start my own agency by myself. So I connected me with these carriers and I joined this other company, which is crazy because a lot of people that come to FFL don't realize how good it is here.
Right.
I get to compare and see.
You see how bad it was before.
Yeah, I didn't know it was bad until you saw something better, right? So I was at 45% when I started, and it's crazy because I would sell 10 grand, 15 grand, and I would take home $4,500, $5,000. So that's kind of where my experience was.
Gotcha. So you worked at one of these big captive,
yes, the really big
companies, insurance companies that sell a lot of permanent products.
Yes.
And your comp was at a 45%. And what was crazy though to me, Rob, is when we had a chance to sit down and I was like, hey man, what's your sales process like? Because we're doing an in-home clinic today, right? Just so y'all understand how bad it is out there, why your clients hate us when we say, hey, it's going to take 15 or 20 minutes. And then they're like, no, it's not. It's going to take 3 hours. It's because of guys like him, because of guys like Rob, right? Go over your financial inventory. They don't even call it that. They call it fact finding.
Fact finder, yeah. So,
right. How big was that packet? Because it wasn't a page of paper.
And just to give you context, this was at the convention. I was still learning what the heck FFL was, right? So I pulled out my fact finder because I had it in my backpack. I had a client, and no joke, it's 15 pages long, back to back. So it's double-sided, not even page by page. And I mean, you're trying to find out everything about them, within the past 10 years, basically, just to choose a product.
Right.
And the crazy part is we don't close in the first appointment, never. Because the first appointment usually is an hour and a half. So then you tell them, oh, we're going to take this back to the office. I'm going to find out which is the best product for you. So we would go do that. And then after that, I'll do the other appointment. Sometimes we would get the second appointment. Sometimes we won't. Or sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. So we ended up going, and then you would present the product. And then there's another step. You go into underwriting, right? And that takes another week and a half. Where they take out the blood and urine and they do all this
APS, all that, right?
Yeah, underwriting on them. And in reality, you don't know if you're going to get paid. You're kind of all right, so you're not that unhealthy, right? So, unfortunately, because of the blood and urine, they find out every little detail about you. So after that, it takes another 2 weeks to get paid from the approval. So that's kind of how I was getting clients.
If you sat down with a client on April 1st, when were you going to get paid?
Oh, May 1st. Yeah, definitely.
At a 45% comp.
Yes.
With a 15-page financial inventory.
Yes.
So when you found out how like we don't do any of that. Like our appointments are like 35, 45 minutes. We have one piece of paper. What was your thought?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't believe it because I was like, who the heck would do this? Like, I don't understand. Like, and I remember when Colton, he sent me the financial inventory, and I was like, that's it? He's like, yeah, that's it. Well, if you do mortgage protection, it's a different one, but that one's also one page. And I'm like, and honestly, like I wasn't comfortable using it because I felt it was too easy, and that's what upset me about it at the beginning, was that it was too easy because I don't know why. I guess I was expecting more complexity when someone's making, 50, 60,000 like Colton here does,
Right.
and Will here. So I was just so confused, honestly, and I just thought to myself, I mean, I don't have anything to lose. I'm already in the industry. I'm not quitting my job to, do this. So I told him, how fast can I get contracted? That was my, that was my answer, right?
That was your way in. So you've been in the industry, like you said, since you were 18. What was your biggest month in the previous companies?
So my biggest month was actually December of 2020.
What did you do?
I did 14,000.
Okay, and your first
submitted.
Submitted.
Okay. It wasn't issued because I got a decline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your first month here at Family First Life was like literally like just like 40 days ago. What did you issue?
I issued 22,000 and I got 17,000 in deposits.
Right. So like your first month here with the simple system that we have, the one-page financial inventory, right?
No, it's true. And honestly, the only training that I had for FFL was from YouTube, and then when I would call Colton every once in a while.
Right.
But yeah, I'm still in shock that that's what happened.
And the crazy part is like it would take you a month to get paid because like with us we get paid in like 2 days.
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
The policies would issue on the spot.
No, that's another thing. I wasn't familiar with this type of underwriting. I didn't know it existed.
Simplified issue.
Simplified issue. I was so shaken. I remember I sent him a picture and it just said approved, and I'm like, that's it, right? He's like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, okay. All right. And then the next morning, you get the America statement and it says how much you're going to get paid. And I was like, yeah, but it's not in my account yet. And then it was there 3 days later.
Right.
So it was pretty crazy experience. Honestly.
That's cool, man. That's very cool. Well, we don't do it that way here at Family First Life. We have a financial inventory sheet and we sell 40, 50 grand a month, and we do it, Colton 60 grand a month, and we do it very simple. And, in my opinion, one of the best financial inventories in the company is yours, Will. And it's not because you gathered, it's not like you use a special form. It's a one-pager that we all have access to. Mm-hmm. But you are able, in my opinion, in our group, and I've talked to other people in other groups too, you have a higher AP count per app than almost anybody I know. Like almost anybody I know. When we had a chance to dive into that, you started to find out really quickly is because you knew everything about the client. Like you did like a Robert client analysis almost to some extent to find out what they could afford, what they couldn't. And, like we joke around and be like, all right, Colton write 15 grand, but it'd take him 13 apps, and I'd write 15 grand and it took me like 12 apps, and We'll write 15 grand and it took him 3 apps.
Come on now.
Right? So,
yeah.
And the crazy part is the policy stuck, right?
Yep.
So can you talk about how you uncover financials in the financial inventory? What's different between what you do versus what we do? Because we do it all differently. That's the best part.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So I think first off, when we kind of uncovered what I was doing in the home, when I was doing it part-time, and I thought everybody was doing this.
Right.
This is what we're supposed to be doing, right? Like we're supposed to be doing financial inventory. So I really started to break down the client and in the in-home by processing what their bills were.
Okay.
What their utilities
Like,
are.
so show us that. Like, pretend
Sure.
I'm a client, right? How are you going to go, like, what do you ask? What series of questions? What are you taking us through?
Sure. So the first thing, obviously, I'm walking in, finding the reason why I'm there.
Okay.
Number one, and it's one of three always. It's, do you not have any coverage? Are we supplementing with extra coverage? Is your coverage ending? or are we trying to leverage, a legacy for your grandkids or your kids for when you die?
Okay.
I get that information, and then I say, hey, listen, here was what we're going to do. We're going to submit a request to the carrier.
So you're telling them you're going to do this today.
Yeah.
You're assuming
Yeah.
the sale, and you're like, this is what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. What we're going to do first is we're going to find out what your health is, your health criteria, and we're going to review your budget. Because number one, I want to make sure this is affordable for you. So I'm trying to build credibility a little bit with the client. So what I did was I start out with their number one bill, and what is that for most families? That's their
mortgage
rent
or the
their
rent.
mortgage. No matter what it is, it's always that way. Every once in a while, I run into a double mortgage in the driveway, and that does happen. But I go through that as well. Credit card debt, food, making sure that they can still afford this at Christmas time.
Right.
Making sure that they have, do they have school bills that they're paying for? Utilities, obviously, that come along with the house. Any bill that they have that comes up, miscellaneous, that's huge because everybody's miscellaneous income in a home is different.
Right.
So I literally walk through what those bills are. Every once in a while, I get people that, go and grab their budget sheet and we review it. But what I found is that people have a lot more income that's discretionary than they actually admit to.
Right.
So I was able to figure that out and be able to, number one, help people out and put their families in a better position for when they die.
It's crazy because we're in the finance world, and I've never even thought about it that way. But I've heard you talk about it with some clients where they go, "Wow, that's what we have left over." It's like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's crazy to me. And sometimes it is good that we bring that to light because the second statement that's crazy is, wow, it doesn't feel that way. Well, it's because they're spending money on things they shouldn't be spending, right? And that's where they eat away at the income that they have. So therefore, when we actually show them something that's good for them and their families, and they go, I can't afford it. No, you could afford it. You just spend money on stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Your Amazon bill is like $300 a month. Well,
and that's fine. And I realized that. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Let's add another $300 to your miscellaneous income. We'll subtract it. You still have, 700, 800, 900 left over a month.
Right.
And you can still afford this, and that's fine.
And when you say this, you're showing them $300, $400, $500 a month, and you're not even flinching because it's like they can afford it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you overcome that? Like when let's say you show them $450, $275 and $125, and you show them that, and they have sticker shock, and they go, "What? Will, I can't afford that." How do you overcome that? Are you calm and you go, "Yeah, I know you can."
Yeah, by what you just did, body language,
right?
And that's fine. Hey, listen, Steve. It's okay. You don't have to make a decision today, but since you do want to make a decision today to protect your family, we should probably start, with option B. And I can always come back later. And I say, hey, just initial and date that option and make sure it makes more sense to you.
Gotcha.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'll initial and date it. So it also is a closing technique that I started to do. I don't know where I picked it up, probably one of these podcasts.
Right.
But is turning the financial inventory over, saying, hey, there's no reason why you can't afford this one. But if you want to start here, that's fine. Just initial and date which one makes more sense to you.
Right. So instead of, because their discretionary income, their disposable income, you have $700, $800, $900, but instead of getting them for $400, you're like, $275 to work. Right. And $275 is like a fraction of what that is. Cool, man. Sure. What about you, Colton? You sell a lot of insurance. So you take a completely different approach from Will, very similar to me. My average app, if it's $125, I'm happy. Right. I'm not trying to get a $300, $400, $500, dollar a month app. Talk about, how do you make the same premium, but your app count is higher? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I just have to, I know I have to have a lot more appointments than Will or the next guy.
Right.
And I kind of got that from Andrew back when used to hear him on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like my close ratio isn't great, but I know I can get the same amount of premium of the next guy if I'm willing to book more appointments.
And see, here's the crazy part. Like, as we're doing this podcast right now, you're the number 10 producer in all of Family First Life. Like, not like, number 10 in my agency or Will's agency. Like, you're number 10 in the entire company. You've already issued like 200 grand worth of business, and it's like 3 to 4 months in. So obviously, if you feel like you lack the quote unquote skill, which you don't, but you're basically stating to me that you're willing to make up in numbers what you lack in skill. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact Will doesn't run, 35, 40 appointments a week, but you have no problem doing that, which is why you can catch up with app count, and premium. Does that kind of make sense?
Right.
And if we went around the room or around the table right now, like, be honest, what's your closing rate?
Honestly,
Yeah, serious.
it's like 95%.
Right. What about yours?
Probably 50 to 60%.
Yours?
Yeah, I'm about
Yeah, I'm like 50 to 62, which is the reason why it's like you hear that. And I'm not making fun of Rob.
Yeah.
Rob just needs to run more appointments.
That's true.
If Rob ran 30 appointments, Rob would be the number one producer in the company.
Right,
You see what I mean? But what I mean by that is like we see this, and it's like I can control my deposits. I can control my appointments. I can control the AP and the IP if I just control my booked appointments, SAT appointments for the week. And see, that was the funny game that I think we played, you and I, that we played together a few months back when we started doing this. It was like, when we were trying to scale your business, we were like, hey, let's submit 10 grand a week. And then after we started doing that consistently, we're like, all right, now let's issue 10 grand a week. And then you started doing that very quickly. And it's like, all right, cool. Now let's issue 10 grand in a weekend. Mm-hmm. And then like it went from that to like, let's deposit 10 grand a week to like, let's only deposit 10 grand with America. Because if you deposit with just 10 grand with America, you're going to get 2,000-3,000 with all the other carriers too. Dude, you're making good money, right? And see, that's the part where Rob is messed up. Because he goes, there's no way that guy is making 60 grand a month here at Family First Life.
With all love,
Right.
honestly.
But you know why? Because like so many people are jaded in our industry that when they see our numbers, they go, that's not real. And it's like, no, it's very real. And so like you like talk about that, because when you applied, he didn't even reach out to you. Like you applied to the company, he called you and you gave him crap for it.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So just to give a little backstory, so I ended up in FFL, finding out about it because I was looking for leads.
Because you didn't have none.
Because I was running a little low, and I was just like, man, all right, because I was in referral business. So I ended up finding out about leads, and then I kept hearing about instants on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Different people would post, and I'm like, what? I kept searching instant leads on Google. Nothing would come out. So then I was like, man. And then all of a sudden, I would get all these FFL ads all of a sudden, right? And then I decided to apply, and then this girl called me. I don't know who it was, but they called me, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll have someone call you. And then Colton called me. And then he was like, hello. Like, very calm and mellow, right? And I'm like, all right, so I just saw the video and everything. Is this real? Like, how much did you do? And then he said, you know how he does that? He goes like, 62,000 last month. And I'm not gonna lie, literally I was like,
Say what?
I was like, how much did you issue? He's like 62,000 a month. And I was like, okay.
So nonchalant about him.
Yeah, nonchalant. We keep saying that, but it's so true. Like, and so I was a little confused, and I didn't believe you. But I was like, man, if he just issued 25, that's good. That means I could do 50, or 60. Then I could do 50 or 60. I set in my mind, right? I didn't know Coles at the time, keep in mind, but I was like, you know what? I was like, how fast can I get contracted? I was like, you know what? I'll just try. I mean, I don't know, like.
But you were grilling him for questions.
Oh yeah, I apologize. I went a little rough on him because I was tired of all these companies promising, and then you give it your all, and you get like 10% of what was promised. So I was used to that. So I was like, you know, this time I'm like, nah, I'm older, I'm inexperienced. I was like, this is not gonna happen again, you know. So yeah, I was like, how big is your team? He's like, oh no, that's just me. That was even worse. That was like another. I was like, oh man, it's just him. I was like, okay, all right. So he's out doing offices, okay. But yeah, I was just so like confused. But that's what's beautiful about this business, because actually, I was telling him when my first dial day, I was like, hey, this is Robert. How are you? I just got your form in. I was like so excited, right? Hang up. And I called him like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He's like, man, I'm going on appointments right now. Go on ffldials.com. They should be dialing right now. And I went on it, and then I was listening to them, and I was like, wow, everyone books nonchalant.
Right.
And you guys said it today. You're like, you're just asking to come over. That's it. It's not that deep. And you know, Sean Mike always says it, but it's like the honest truth.
Right.
It isn't that deep. And you know, I started having to connect to this system because it is different. What's cool about it, it's simple. It's just work ethic.
Right. But see, here's the thing. Like, I'm glad you said that, because so many people come from other companies and they bring what they had at the other company here. And I'm like, dude, if what worked at the other company, you wouldn't be here. So like, if you're smart, you leave all your baggage at the door and just learn it the way that we do it. And you've done that, which is the reason why you've sold, which is the reason why your first month here, you've done more than you did in 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the best part. Let's dive into that in-home clinic a little bit more. When you told me when you sit down with a client, you use the financial inventory, the one pager that you despise.
I love it now.
So, because it's simple, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so your appointments used to be like 2-3 hours. How much time are you in it now?
To be honest.
Yeah.
If like 30 minutes.
Right.
30 minutes.
And that's why when we say, hey, it's going to take us 15-20 minutes, we legitimately mean that.
No, it honestly is. It honestly is. And it's just so cool because they know why you're coming.
Right.
There's no like, oh, let's see how we can expand your cash flow. Like all this,
right.
like
you're trying to confuse them.
Yeah, and it's like, no, it's just very simple. And it's funny because Colton would tell me this. He's like, oh yeah, you just follow down the thing. It's literally a lot of people, and I tell this even to agents that I've hired. Look, you don't need to know everything. You literally just need your financial inventory sheet, a phone, and Will says, a park. You just literally sit down and you dial, and then you just ask to come over. You show up and you just follow what's already on the financial inventory sheet. And next thing you know, you're in and out of the house, and
Right.
they're interested. So
You came from a company where you only had a few products, and now you have 20 carriers with us, right? Brand new people all the time go, well, I got to know all the products before I get in the field. Your very first few appointments, like, you didn't even know the product name.
No.
Because when you called Colton and Colton said, hey, write this product, Eagle Premier or whatever, you're like, the Eagle thingy, right?
yeah, I call it the Eagle thing. That's what I would call it at first. Yeah.
Right. And then talk about how, because you do it a little bit different than me. Everybody here does it differently. That's the best part about what we do here. It's like, if you interviewed every Hall of Fame producer, every in-home sounds different, which is why I'm like, you just got to take whatever you like and piece it together yourself. How did you use the e-app with your financial inventory? If you want to talk about that, because you close at a high rate, which is great, but I want to talk about that too.
So the first thing that I did was I changed my mindset, right? I'm not here to convince them. I'm sorry, but the minute you fill out that lead form, you want a policy.
Right.
No one, goes into the Porsche website just because they wanted to go. No, they want a Porsche.
Right.
So it's the same thing with life insurance. So I treat it that way. When I go in, I don't build rapport. At the beginning, I don't.
Right. Did you used to?
Yes, I used to. And you'll find yourself staying in the home a lot longer, and they'll be your friends but not your clients. Right. That's at least happens to me. I don't know why, but so I just go in. They know why I'm here, right? And if they don't, you remind them. I don't leave until they kick me out, basically.
Right.
So then I go in, I sit down, and I say, all right, there's only 3 reasons why people, fill out the form. They either want to pay for their final expense, because everyone has that final invoice at the end of our life, or you already have insurance and you're looking for more insurance, or third, you want to leave a legacy for your family. Which one of those three? Why did you fill this out? And then they'll say, oh, well, the final expense, right? And you already know as you go into these appointments, you kind of know which product fits to who and who can get approved where. So I go through that and I go, okay, great. I just need to fill out this form. Once we fill out the form, I'll input into the computer, and then the computer will let us know who can approve you. My job's easy; it's just to get you approved. So I go in, I fill out the form with them. I go through the different illnesses, and I just go. It's very simple. Just say yes or no if this applies to you, and they go, okay. All right, COPD, diabetes, yes, no, all right, cool. And I just circle, and I then after that, I tell them, okay, great. I'm gonna put it into the computer. And then I start on the computer, and I'm already in the app already, right? There's no negotiating. At least that's not how I do the appointment. There's no negotiating. We're doing this. You asked me to come over. So we're going in, and then, in America, in the second tab, you already know if they're getting approved or not.
Right.
So you just continue all the way down. And then I always show the max approval. And then I show two other plans, in different tiers, like, for example, 30,000, 20,000, and 10,000, for example.
Right.
And then I turn the financial inventory sheet around, and I write it down, and I put a square around the death benefit, because I don't want them to choose based on they see the price. It's there, but I don't emphasize on it. So I go, okay, Colton, which one of these three, how much death benefit do you want to leave to Leah? And I just look at them, and they're straight in their eye, because that's what this is for. It's not for you. It's for Leah, right? So then they'll say, 25,000. And I say, okay, great. And then I'll literally just ask him, okay, do you have a voided check, or do you have your banking and routing information? And I'll just say, is this a business or checking account? I already know it's not, but they just go with the flow. And I think it's all mindset, because I think when you're afraid, that's very important. You have to believe in what you're doing and yourself. Know that they filled out the form.
Right.
And treat it that way. And then if they say, oh, I don't want to do this right now. Okay, no worries. So, and then I pull out my decline coverage, like nonchalant.
Right.
Okay, great. So let me just fill this out, saying that you're declining the coverage. This just removes us from any liability. We came here to offer you the coverage. And I just fill it out, and I say, okay, you have to initial here and sign here. And they're like, well, what are you doing?
Right.
And then I go, oh, did you want to get the coverage? We can just apply and finish the application. And they go like, yeah. Right. Or they'll say no, and then that's kind of like, I don't like chargebacks, so I don't really like to push anything further than that. Right. But that's my strategy, and it's been working for me.
So you do the e-app.
I do the e-app.
And then you get to the banking info and then show options.
Yes, and then I show options.
Wow. That has saved me a lot of time.
You know where I got that from?
Where?
It's going to trip you guys out, but I learned that from Tiger Woods' dad. So Tiger Woods' dad told, he got interviewed one time, and he said, when I taught Tiger Woods, I taught him from, what is it called? I forgot already. The hole to the tee box.
Right.
Not from the tee box
to the hole.
To the hole.
Right.
And I was like, that's so cool. Like, I don't know why, but that.
You're working backwards.
Yeah, I'm working backwards. So I'm like, let me get them approved first, and then we'll worry about
the price.
Because it's irrelevant, and a lot of people are afraid of price. Mm-hmm. Everyone is. For some reason, everyone's afraid of price. But once they're approved and you've already got all this sensitive information, it's like, I'm in too deep. Right. So they just kind of fall into it. So I basically prepped the whole presentation for them just to be ready to pay. Right. Basically, that's honestly how I have it set up.
Dude, that's pretty cool, man. What about you? Well, how do you close? You a top-down guy. You did everything. So explain that. You were a top-down. You were 3 options, like 2 options. Like, what were you? Like, what do you do?
Max coverage.
Always?
Is what I do now. Always. All the time. No matter if they have 700 left over or they make 15 grand a month. Mm-hmm. I'm showing them max. Everybody gets treated equally.
Nice.
Plus the 2 options, and then work down from there with body language to see what else they can qualify. Because I think that's what really the ultimate decision really works down to. If you got them qualified, it's only one thing.
Right.
It's only the price. It is what has really come to be the problem if they still don't want to move forward
Right.
with it, because they still want to proceed to help their family, but they don't feel that they can afford it. So I will show two options and make sure they get qualified. But as I'm running through things, I've changed it up several times from showing the options first,
Right.
and then proceeding with a driver's license, and then saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. Bob, we're going to submit an application today, a request to the carrier. What that's consistent with is your name, your date of birth, your phone number, your email address, your place of birth, 12 to 15 health questions, as well as your primary beneficiary and a secondary in the event that that person died. Also, we're going to submit your banking information, which is checking and routing. Nobody will take plastic that I work with.
Right.
And then we submit that, and at the end, I'll know that you're approved, and then I can walk away and know that your family's protected tonight when you go to sleep.
There you go. So you're basically laying out, when you're setting the table, you're like, this is what we're going to do today. Mm-hmm. And you're telling them, this is everything I'm going to ask for all this information, even the sensitive date of birth, social, banking info. Mm-hmm. And they basically agree to it.
Yep.
And then you basically push the app through.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. What about you, Colton? How do you quote unquote close?
I mean, I've tried a little bit of everything, but because I used to I'm always doing 3 options though.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily always do the max. I figure out what's in their budget, and that's going to dictate what I'm showing.
Right.
I used to say a lot of different things. I used to say, obviously you can afford all 3 of these options. Which one do you want? I've done the kind of like, what do you want? Married, receive. But I haven't really seen any difference, and I'm legit just basically, all right, out of these 3 options, if you were approved, which one do you prefer?
Just simple.
Yeah, I'm
like
simple.
Such a hard close.
Then I do that, let them think about it. Like, I show them real quick, and then, because I'm sitting, like, I get nice and close and personal with them, and then make them pick one, and then I'll circle it in front of them.
Gotcha.
And then perfect. We've already gotten through most of these health questions, so we'll just continue through the health questions and give us the official approval at the end.
Nice. Do you guys ask for the check up front, or do you ask for the check when you get to banking?
Yeah, I wait at the very end. I'll get their IDs at the very beginning, and then I'll get their banking at the end.
What about you, Will?
So I actually have, right in the beginning, I'll ask. I think it's imperative to find out who the beneficiary is going to be,
right,
for something like this, and use that name multiple times throughout the appointment. I've done that. That's been a huge part of my success here. But definitely there, I'll write bank account, I'll write name, date of birth, phone number. So that just fills out part of the page in the Americo app that I actually utilize.
Mm-hmm. But are you are you asking for the check before you even go through the e-app?
Oh yeah.
So
they know right off the bat that I either need it by phone, because they can get it by phone. I remember in the beginning when I was running Facebook leads, I'd either take people to the bank, or we were calling the bank, from the house to make sure we had that information.
Right.
And that was all before. But they knew it required checking and routing. I'm like, hey, do you have access to that? Do you have the card? Or I don't have to take a voided check with me. But it does have to be checking and routing today.
Nice. See, and you do it at the end when you're about to do it, which is the crazy part, because like you have 3 top producers and everybody does it different. It's like, I always tell people, it's like pretend you're going to a buffet, right? And you walk by the buffet line and you see this food or whatever you want. If you don't want it, you don't put it on your plate. It's that simple. But if you want it, you put it on your plate.
Right.
That's how I learned here at Family First Life. Like I would watch the trainings and the podcast and I'm like, I like that. I'm going to put that in my presentation. And then I'm like, some people do whatever they do. And then I'm like, that works for him, but it's not my style. I'm not going to place it in. The trouble that I get with people is the guy that puts everything of everybody's into their presentations all the time. And I'm like, dude, you don't have a style because you're always trying to put something new. Once it's working, don't change it. You know what I mean? I was always a 3-option guy too. Like 2 options, 3 options, and pick one. I'm like, I used to joke around and be like, my sales close was out of 3 options that I showed you, which one you like best. and then I shut up. Kind of like what you said, like silence kills when you're closing. Because what a lot of people do is they go, hey, Rob, out of the 3 options that I showed you, which one do you like best? But before you say anything, like I think this one's really good, but like, the top one's actually really good too because it's more coverage and I think you can afford it. But I mean, if you didn't want to get that one, you can get the bottom one because something's better than nothing. And I'm like, dude, shut up.
This one gets you cash back though.
Right. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, just shut up. Just let them pick. And that's where I think we got, like the 3 of you guys and some of the best agents in the company got really, really good. Because you understood that you weren't selling the clients were buying. Mm-hmm. It's a different place. Wow. It's the same thing, but it's a different place. What I mean by that, it's like, I share the story. It's like when I go to Foot Locker or Nike and I go buy shoes, I go to the shoe store and say, give me that shoe in a 10. I want it in white. They hand it to me. I try it on. It fits. I take it to that cashier. I bought the shoes. Mm-hmm. The guy did not sell me. He was in the transaction, but he did not sell me. We're that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy, they fill out a form. I need life insurance. We come over and say, here's your shoe or here's your options. The guy goes, I'll take that one and pay for it at the cashier. We're order takers. And see, once you can make your in-home presentation that way, it is so easy to sell.
It's all mindset.
It's all mindset. But there's other people that literally feel like car salesmen. When you get to the lot, hey man, do you need help with anything? If you do, let me know. And then what happens, like Will shows up next and then it's like, dude, it's excessive. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
we got that in blue.
Right. We don't have it in black, but you can get it in blue or red. It's like, dude, stop. So that's the piece that I think was massive for me, was learning that concept of like, make the sale so comfortable for the client that you're having a conversation and they're purchasing the insurance. They're not being sold. Like so many times, dude, when I was done with the appointment, they're like, that's it? I'm like, yeah, simple, right? Painless. And they're like, oh, okay. And then I write the coverage sheet and be like, policy is going to be in the mail in the next 7 to 10 business days, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, wow, that was like the easiest experience I've had. I'm like, thank you. But it's like, but when you do it that way, that's why clients buy from you.
100%.
You know what I mean? So, Will, any closing remarks for agents that are trying to learn how to strengthen their in-home, write 40, 50K a month like you do? And what last remarks do you have for them if they're not there yet?
Definitely increase your lead flow if you want to see bigger numbers across the board. But when it comes to the in-home, be sure that you're taking your time. You're following you're calling your upline. You're following the sheet that you have, the financial inventory.
You're
sheet,
not rushing through it.
Yeah, we have that in place for a reason. Everything is set in place for a reason so that we can be successful here. Follow those 2 things and you'll see the success come. But I think taking your time.
Gotcha.
And the in-home is huge.
What about you, Rob?
Definitely confidence, because remember, guys, you're the one with the license.
Right.
It's very simple, but yeah, like, it's funny because I was actually nervous for my first FFL appointment. I'm not gonna lie, I was shaking. I don't know why, but I don't know. I was nervous, but in my mind, I'm like, you're Robert Vasquez. You're Robert Vasquez. So whatever you have to do to pump yourself up before you go in the house, and forget about the no-shows, because that's just inevitable. It's just a numbers game. So always go into the home as if it's your first appointment every single day. So your mindset's in the right place. Believe in yourself. Do anything that you need to do to believe in yourself, because you're only gonna get better. Like your first appointment is your worst appointment,
right?
Because you're only gonna get better. I hope you don't get it worse, right? It's just repetition and just confidence.
I think that's a big key that you just said. Like one of the things I realized early on was when you're brand new, you're very emotional. So like you take the previous appointment into your next one.
Yeah.
So like if you got no show 3 times in a row and you go to this 4th appointment and you're upset, and I'm like, why does she or he deserve you being pissed off that the other 3 clients weren't home? She was home.
Exactly.
Give her what she needs. And so like that's one of the things that we got really good at, and you guys have heard me say this many times, is like your in-home presentation is like a Broadway show. It's the same thing every time. The only thing that changes is the audience. That's it. It's the same acting, same jokes, same underwriting questions, same financial inventory, every single home. The only thing that's different is the client, the audience. You know what I mean? What about you, Colton? What's the last thing you can leave with these guys?
I think this was great because you literally got 3 different personalities given their in-home, and I'm sure almost anyone watching could take something for their in-home.
Right.
But I think me, with my personality, it works just being super nonchalant, acting like I'm not there to sell them, just taking orders. And at that point, when you really show that they care, and when you're showing them the options, it's when they sell themselves on it. And then they ask you, what would you do?
Right. Oh, those are the best.
And when they truly care, then they respect your opinion.
Right.
Wow.
And because I tell that to that people all the time, I either treat you like my parents or my grandparents.
Right.
Like, I'm here to help you, not hurt you. And then when they truly think you want to help them, then that's when they sell themselves.
Right.
It's powerful.
That's cool, man. Yeah, one of the things that I learned that I would leave with people, and I never did this like the first 2 years of my business. It was just freaking hilarious. Like, you show max premium, you show max premium, you kind of do sometimes. I never did. I just never did. I was like, oh, I think you can afford this, and I would just lay out the plans. But then again, I didn't have a strong financial inventory like Will does. And then I remember watching a video on a podcast, and Nina D taught me this, and she said, when you get the pre-approval with America, that pops up, hey, you may qualify for up to 30,000 or whatever it is, right? Let's just say it's final expense. You may qualify up to 30,000, but you're writing a policy for 12, right? She would say they already picked the 12. What you should say is, hey, look, they'll give you up to 30. And here's what was crazy. When I was on my Hall of Fame run in December and I wrote 73 grand in a month, I did that a few times and people were like, oh, wow, they'll give me 30? What does 30 cost? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no way. Can't be this easy. And I'd run the numbers and they'd be like, okay, that's a little high. And I'm like, okay, let me dial it back. 25 costs this. They're like, we can do that one. And like automatically just double my premium, double the AP, double the coverage for the client too, because that's what matters most. And I just asked a simple question of like, hey, they would give you more. Would you want to find out how much that costs? And most of the time they did. And if they didn't, they're like, no, the 12 is good. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. And you just proceed with the app.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like that was so crazy. Like that 1%er added so much premium for me my last few days in the field. But you talked about helping people. If people wanted to reach out and work with you, Rob, how can they get a hold of you? Social media?
Social media.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's Rob Vasquez, so ROBVSQZ.
Okay.
And my phone number is 713-865-1120.
What about you, Will?
Sure. For Instagram, it's Will Lohr 59, and my phone number is 505-977-1432.
Dude, what's Will Lohr 59? Is that like 59 grand is what you sold in a month? I'm just kidding, man. I'm giving you a hard time. What about you, Colton? If they wanted to reach out to you, you're a top sales agent here at Family First Sight Building an Agency. How would they be able to get a hold of you?
Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is first name, last name, Colton Duhr, Duhr. Best form is text or call me, 316-364-9312.
And the best part is, like, I know every single one of you guys, and I know you guys would bend over backwards to help people. And that's the best thing is, like, if you're with us or without, not even with us, all our training's online and we don't hide any of it. So, like, I have so many agents that we talk to on a daily basis that go, yeah, you trained me how to sell mortgage. I'm like, oh, great. Who do you work with? They're like, oh, I don't work at FFL. I'm like, that's so funny, you know? And it's because, but like most people will get scared about that. But I'm like, no. Sean's 100% right. It's the clients that matter. If the client's in the correct coverage, that's all that matters. It's family first, clients, families first, life, right? So thank you guys for jumping on and sharing this with people. Hey guys, if you're out there and you have any questions about reaching out to us, getting started with us, or getting any in-home help, these 3 guys are very, very top agents in their company. They're booming, and please let us know if we can